Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm SKippy and welcome to another video. I thought I'd just try a different angle for this intro this time. Whilst the weather is lovely, nice sunshine outside, and it seems a shame to be stuck inside. As a result, the wind has picked up really quite strong. So unless I fly before 9 o'clock in the morning, it's just too windy with the gusts. Potentially I'll be all right with the larger models, but the smaller ones, no chance. So the advantage of that is means I now need to just get on with the build. This is the HQ prop 7 by 3.5 that I've used on all my other builds, Guillow's builds. And I was thinking, 3 blades, it works really well, but actually the P47 is really a 4 blade. So I did a little bit of looking around. I managed to find an FMS 4 blade prop. Again, this is a 7-inch, but with the 4 blades. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to trial it and see how it goes. Obviously, what I first need to do is I need to change the hole for the shaft because that's not going to go through there. So I'm going to use the reamer and carefully make this hole bigger so that it fits on that shaft there. So there we go. Shaft fitted, nice snug fit, nice and tight. And the best way of doing it is to put this through from both sides little by little and just checking it regularly. Okay, as you can see, I've used the underside of the wing, so the central fuselage piece, as a little test to see how the Oracover and the aluminium foil goes on. So this is one piece of Oracover that was big enough to go across the whole section, and that works out really well, quite neat. I then tried some aluminium foil down the centre. Again, that's easy to apply. It's about the right length for this as well. The only issue is, as you can see there, it does dent, and unlike the Oracover, I can't tighten it, and I did show that when I did the tail pieces. And then what I've tried now is at the end, at the front of it, sorry, this has been done in 2 separate pieces. So you can see I wrapped it around, trimmed it, and then a second piece there. Now the issue with this, whilst the actual seal isn't too bad on the lower, here when I applied the heat gun to tighten up foil, the cover, it's buckled that slightly. What I might do just to neaten it up is put a thin strip of the aluminium foil down the centre. That will cover that up and seal it. But it gives me an idea that when I move on to covering the fuselage, the best way of doing it, do I get as big a piece as I can to cover as many of the ribs, or like I've done here, do I do strips that start at the top and work their way down? So I'll have a piece on the bottom, hopefully one sheet like that, and then I'll have a piece that comes from the almost the top down. Then I'll have a piece over the top, over the whole center. So the bottom and the top will be one piece like that, which I think looks quite neat. The sides will then be a single piece, and then I'll try a piece over the top. We'll see. If the aluminium foil going down the seam, like I'll try this on here, works, then that might be another way. So things to think about. But what I need to do now is get on with sorting out the push rods for the tail section, covering up that area, and then looking to put in the rest of the formers. I need to also work out how I get the horizontal stabilizer on, because until that's on and the rudder's on, actually, I don't really know where the push rods need to run from the servos. So that's where I need to get on with. Okay, so we know that L3 is level. Checked it with the phone, compared to the rest of the frame. I've obviously trimmed off some of the foil there so that there's a better surface to glue on. This isn't glued yet, hence the wall ruler just to hold it on. What I've noticed is it's quite a tight line there once it's all lined up, so I may have to trim the end of the elevators slightly so that when they go down they don't rub. But also from experience, when I've tried to cover the model after I've put the push rods in, it gets very difficult, especially with foil, to get underneath You don't get a nice seal with the hot glue because of course there's only just a small stringer. So what I'm probably going to do is put the stringers in these two sections first, cover it before I glue the stabilizer on. Then I can work out exactly where the wire will go through the formers and where it comes out to then meet underneath where I choose to put the control horn. Once I've done that, then I'll be able to glue with a bit more confidence, and I'll be able to make sure there's an appropriate hole in the stringers. Also, what I'll do before I physically cover it, I might actually infill with a piece of strip balsa between the stringer here or here, so that when the wire, where the wire comes out, it's just a little bit neater and doesn't buckle the foil. So we'll see how that goes. So we're at the point where we can now start looking at threading the wires through the fuselage. Before I do that, I did say I'd cover it. So using the Oracover, cover the rear section first, and then I can cut out the slit where the wire will go, and then I can see where the wire goes through. Then I'll just do this small section, that's the whole piece done. Then I'll actually affix the stabilizer and fin rudder onto the model, wire it all through, connect it to the servos. Then I'll complete the stringers on top of the model, and I can start covering the whole frame. So hopefully that will work. Not quite sure how easy the Oracover is going to go on. So this is a learning point now. Hopefully not too frustrating. But I'll do photos as it goes. That's the end section with Oracover on. It doesn't look too bad actually, including the seal underneath. So I'm quite happy with how that went on, bearing in mind it's quite a large iron. Managed to get a bit of overlap on the top there as well and blend it in fairly nicely. Obviously it could do with a little bit of tightening up, so what I'm going to do is very carefully use the heat gun just to try and take those wrinkles out, hopefully without pulling the tape off the top or separating it underneath. So I just need to little by little, and if there's a few wrinkles in at this end, then I'll go with it. But actually I'm quite pleased with how that went on. Okay, so the heat gun carefully wafted over the Oracover, taking out a lot of the creases. I don't want to get too close to it, so you can see some with the light reflecting on it. But to be honest, with the naked eye, it looks pretty good. And from what I remember, most real aeroplanes, you will get some creases over time anyway. So very happy with that. Hopefully I'll be able to do the next section as neatly. I've tidied up the rear end, placed aluminium foil on part of the fuselage that won't be covered by the rear stabilizer. The rudder will go over that. What I've also done is added in the plastic tube for the push rod to run through, just to make it smoother. I can insert it from this end, and then it will go through nicely through some holes in the formers to the servo. What I'm now going to do though is cover this section, then I'll glue the stabilizer and rudder in place, then I'll build up the rest of the stringers on the fuselage, and then we can start covering it properly. This bit's going to be a little bit more complicated because of the angle, so I've got a piece prepared there, so I shall now try and fit it. I've covered the next section in the Oracover. It looks okay actually, I think, with the seal. I think I've got it sealed on as best I can, the flat edge, and then I've trimmed where it slopes. The tricky part now is applying the gentle heat to try and go from that wrinkled effect to something a little bit tidier like we have at the end. My only concern is that as it contracts, it then pulls off where the join is. So I'm going to apply a gentle heat, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Okay, so just a few minutes applying the heat seems to have taken out most of the creases, which is quite nice. Got to be careful on the top there because that's where the overlap is. You can see it's starting to pull. If I try and zoom in, starting to pull a little bit, but not too bad. Until I was getting a bit tense, I actually broke one of the stringers with my grip. But I think it's not too bad at all. So I might give it one more quick go. And what I'm doing is holding it at a distance. And as soon as it starts to crinkle, I move the heat away, so I'm not overheating it. It cools down quickly. So little by little, I'm tightening it up, or tightening it. But yeah, so far so good. Okay, I think I've done enough. I don't want to shrink it too much and ruin it, but I think it's come out pretty well. So that was an extra little bit of heat. Annoying about that seal where the join is. Not sure what to do about that. Maybe try and stick it down with the iron now that it's a bit tighter. In fact, I will have a go at that. And what I'm now going to do is connect the push rods through onto the servos. I won't tighten it on the servos yet because I need to make sure that the movement is correct. And then I can glue the stabilizer and rudder on. Rear stabilizer nicely secured on, and having put the foil on before, it means you get a much nicer seal or look underneath where it joins the fuselage. That's the extra bit I put on for where the rudder will go. The push rods look like they'll be about the right length, certainly plenty on the elevator, and looks like I'll have enough for the rudder. I've got a little bit of flex at the end there, but not too much. If not, I might need to use a bit of wire. Now I'm going to glue the rudder and tail on, and leave that for a good few hours like I've done for the stabilizer, and then I'll look at connecting the push rods, making sure it's all centered, and then screwing that on, and then getting on with the rest of the fuselage build. Okay, now she's taking shape. So stabilizer, rudder, all glued on. I'm not sure that that's going to be strong enough. That is just glued on. What I normally do is pin it. I'm also thinking I'm going to do for this particular one is run a thin strip of balsa in the gap there in the join, and then just cover it in aluminium foil, just to give the stabilizer and rudder, or fin should I say, something more to stick to. I'm really pleased how the foil works, and that's a really nice reflection in the back there. So looking good. So just to ensure that I've got a better surface area securing the stabilizer and fin, I'm going to use a piece of stringer. I've sanded it down to smooth it off. Then going to cut it to about 6.5 centimeters, which will be enough to go from the end of the stabilizer to the front here. I won't run over onto this piece. I might try and put a little bit of a curve on it so it's not as obvious when it's on there, but then I will cover it with aluminium foil just to make it blend in more. There we go, that's the balsa covered. Doesn't look too bad at all, and I've also done a little bit of foil in the front of the fin there just to hide that gap on both sides. Okay, we have the rudder and elevator connected, and then the wires trimmed at the servo end. I've just noticed I need to re-glue that piece there. It's a bit of movement, but I'll do that in a minute. But what I want to show you is the fact that it does all work. The rudder left and right, and the elevator up and down. I'm very happy with that, and that's going the right way. I had to reverse the elevator, but that's fine. So all good. So we've made some good progress. I'll probably leave it here now for this video, and in the next video we'll have the covering, or the building of the fuselage, the covering of it, covering of the wing, then putting it together. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful.